Hey everyone, welcome to Tuesday night and welcome to Scotch on the Bayou, our live show. I'm Leanne and we talk about whiskey, we talk about Louisiana, and tonight we're going to be talking about some women. So I'm excited about that. I have a really deep knowledge of this since I am one. I'm really, really super excited tonight because I have a very dear friend that's coming on to join us and talk about, the contributions women have made in whiskey, which pretty much have happened since whiskey's been around. And we'll talk a little bit more about that and some of these folks that really know their stuff. They just happen to be women. Tomorrow is International Women's Day, and so I thought it'd be fun to kind of throw that out. And so, like Ness is going to get the party started by wishing everyone a happy International Women's Day. Thank you, friend. I appreciate that very, very much. Good to see you too, Jimmy Jazz. Bessie Williamson, yes, we're going to be talking about her because she was a mighty thing. Yeah, like we're gonna all be toasting her really pretty soon, that's for sure. Hey, Too Slow, Molasses are in. Great to see you. Mark Rainer, he's down at the camp this week, taking care of some things, cleaning up. We've had some water and not in the camp, but around and lots of mud. So he's been doing the messy stuff and cleaning things up. Thanks, son. And hello, meow, sugar kitty. Always good to see you. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. Looks like Molasses is already getting in trouble. That's so funny. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we always have a fun. Thank you. I appreciate that. I like to bring the fun to functional and a little a little knowledge, drop a little knowledge, have a little fun. This is not pretentious. We're all here. We're all big buddies, sitting at the table. And yeah, so Mark has the two, what we call the big dogs. They're kind of all the same size, but he's got Rue and Rue and Tula at the camp. I've got Angel over here guarding my whiskey. She hasn't moved since like, I don't know, 6:30 our time. But yeah, so we'll get to see Marky tomorrow for sure. Man, oh man, I'm super excited about tonight. And I want to say a big shout out, thank you, George Kaplan. You can see is a 4-month member of the Camp Drammer Club. Thank you and happy International Women's Day, friend. I appreciate that. I'm trying to find that comment in the thing. I see it on Instagram, but I see it on YouTube, but not in the StreamYard to post it. But thank you, friend. I do appreciate all my camp drammers. We're rocking steady. We've got the updated list and the credits on the new video that's about to come out, the new camp dram that's about to come out, as well as our show here tonight. But yeah, everybody's chatty. We got a couple folks on Facebook again to remind everyone we're now being able to show the show on Facebook now. So if you have folks that really don't do the YouTube thing, they can tune in on Facebook. And also check if you have liked the Scotch on the Bayou Facebook page. You probably have been invited to, but you might not have just clicked give the big thumbs up on the Scotch on the Bayou Facebook page, and we'll get those numbers running up too. We're doing really well this year, but there are lots of you I know that come to the page, and you like things, but haven't liked the page, so to speak. And that's their way of, I think, following the page. I'm not sure, but just think about that if you get a chance. I see this guy in. Hey, Whiskey Franco, good to see you there, Martin. I appreciate you being here. And Andrew's with us bright and early. Bright. Well, I don't know how bright it is, but it's definitely early in the morning over there. So thanks for everybody. Martin. Hey, Martin. Sandra, y'all. Thanks for joining us in. We've got a good little crew, and Chuck's in too. Hey, nice to see you, Malt Minion. And awesome. There's George and Artie. Awesome. Yay. So yeah, I don't know also if you caught Whiskey Central show last Saturday. I was her guest for a live blind, as in had not had any of the drams ahead of time to be able to figure out what might be what. That was fun. And it will show you I know nothing about bourbon, which my friend coming up will tell you about, but they seem to love me anyway. But yeah, nailed the Scotch, but the bourbon was clueless for me. Enjoyed it, but we had a great time. So check Whiskey Central out, Shayla, and that was again a fun show, and I appreciate her having me on. Next Tuesday, we're gonna have it's all about Irish. We'll talk a little bit more about that at the end, but Stacy from Four Leaf Whiskey is going to be my guest, and we're going to be talking about Scotch folks getting into Irish, or some surprising Irish that are kind of out there that you might not know about, but attainable for us, and set more for the palate for someone who likes Scotch. So that's going to be fun. So that's next week in preparation of that, big Irish holiday. Hey, Trooper, on the rig again. Well, thank you for being here, friend. This is out there for perpetuity, so you can catch it anytime you want to, for sure. Awesome. Sugar Kitty. Yeah, that's right. You were on there. Oh, you're going to get to see her over the weekend. How fabulous is that? Lucky you. Lucky you. And for our West Coasters, I know I'm sorry that you're still having to work, Tana. But when you get home, get that dram and join us then. That's for sure. I understand. So yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about women in whiskey, and particularly, when you think about whiskey and you think about what's in this glass here, this glass does not have a care about who drinks it. That's why it needs to be guarded as far as the responsibility of who is drinking it, the age of the person drinking it, the responsibility of the person drinking it. But gender-wise, they don't care, And the fact of the matter is women have been part of whiskey since its inception, since it got going. Whether it was, back in the Middle East or even in Egypt, and when fermentation and distillation first started, women had a role throughout all of that. We'll talk a little bit about that, maybe not go that far back, but I want to talk about some of those pioneers, some of the current leaders. We'll talk and name a few, but there's so many. And we'll talk too about there being that sea change, and kind of the stereotypes are falling away. And that's a really good thing. It's a really good thing. I'm about to have my 2-year anniversary for this show. And there's not a whole lot. I mean, you look at how many women are doing YouTube and how many men are doing YouTube. It's a fraction, right? And that's okay. But the fact is, we have a seat at the table, and the community is very welcoming, and for all kinds of folks. And I'm delighted to be part of it, and I'm loud. So I'm loud and I'm proud, and I'm going to be here to talk about this wonderful thing. And I say wonderful thing because it's not so much, yes, it tastes wonderful. I enjoy drinking whiskey, but the community that whiskey has afforded me and the environment that has brought upon the friendships I have is why I love whiskey. And this particular person, Miss Dorothy Kemp, oh my gosh, welcome to Scotch on the Bayou. Let me throw this way here. This is one of the reasons I love whiskey, because of this wonderful individual. Welcome to Scotch on the Bayou, friend.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm stoked. I really am. So for those who might have seen our fall show, Dorothy was a guest back in November when she and David were hurriedly trying to prepare for our Louisiana Bourbon Festival. Dorothy is our vice president of the Bourbon Society of Baton Rouge. And we've got how many members now?
Oh goodness, it roughly about 700 active members.
700 active members, y'all.
That's crazy.
I mean, for a local club, The thing too about that, yes, and we have really great events. We do picks, phenomenal picks. Like I think there's a
Mhm.
pick a week. I mean, pick a month at least. Maybe
Toward the
sometimes
end of
a
the year,
couple.
that's what it seems like.
Yeah, yeah, right, right. And but we do a lot of other events. We just had a bottle share event that was so much
Mhm.
fun where you just bring a bottle, you talk and you chat, nobody gets out of hand. We're just having a really great time. It's a great way to get new people into the club, things like that. But what we do that I love so much is we raise a ton of money for charity. And last year, I mean, when you think about all the give me just a quick rundown on, maybe some totals, but all the different groups that we helped.
So last year, we ended the year with our local Toys for Tots drive. We have that annual fundraiser every year. I think we raised roughly about $40,000 to $50,000 in toys and funds for Toys for Tots. Right
Y'all
before
got that
that,
right. $40,000 to $50,000 for Toys for Tots in money and toys. Yeah.
literally about 3 weeks before that, we had the big event, Louisiana Bourbon Festival, which raised funds for a local organization here, Alzheimer's Service of the Greater Capital Area. And we cleared for first year event, first time event, we cleared over $30,000 for that
Wow.
organization.
Wow. I mean, that's
That's
amazing. I mean, I lived a whole life as a fundraiser, as you well know. And then for a first year event, that's unheard of. It really is. And what a great cause. So you can drink and feel good about what you're doing.
that's one of the best parts. You don't feel as guilty in buying the bottles and having the events is because
Right.
all of it's going to a great cause.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And we have. And our group is very, I mean, I mean, it's predominantly men, but we have a huge group of women in our. I mean,
Absolutely.
we all flock to one another. We all know, and everybody respects everyone's palate. Everyone respects, their thought process, and it's just not like, oh, go ahead, little lady, that kind of
Oh,
thing.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, I don't know how many of y'all have like a buffalo trace behind you. I'm looking at your buffalo back behind you. I have a hairy coo up here, and you've got a buffalo. That tells you who drinks scotch and who drinks
Right.
bourbon, right?
We're branded correctly.
I know, I know. I love it. I love it. I'm so far behind y'all on on things. Oh, hey Mike, good to see you here. Thanks for being in. Oh, I'm sorry you're not feeling too good there, Zach. Um, Hope you feel better. Don't drink anything real good if you can't taste it, friend. Let's see. Peter's in, and hey, West Coast on the whiskey. Check him out, y'all. Just he found me, and I found him this week, and beautiful videos. Great reviews. So check out that there. Awesome. So we got to I want to start out our first dram, and nobody faint, but it's not a scotch. It's something Dorothy and I got to work with, and so we were asked to be a part of an all woman pick committee for a Maker's Mark
Mhm.
private selection bottle. And this was for Hocus Pocus. And I know y'all have heard me talk about Hocus Pocus, but here is our bottle. Let's see if it'll go in there. Yeah, there we go. So that'll give you an idea about what the stave selection was. And this was all new to me because you can't do this stuff in Scotch. And I have to say I was very honored to be asked to be part of it because I don't drink bourbon, but I have a palate. So I was very touched, you know.
It was a great time. And I've done another one since. And that process, the one that we went through, just the formalities and learn the history of the company, it was just a lot. I had a lot more fun the first time than the second time. The second
Yeah,
time was great, but it really gave us a great experience with this pick.
cool. Yeah, it's so we all gathered at a local restaurant, a private room when the four of us, so it was Dorothy and me, and then the regional manager of the Hocus Pocus store. So Hocus Pocus is a local liquor store to Louisiana, and there's 3 locations, one in Alexandria in the middle of the state, one on the west side of the state, Lake Charles, and then here outside Baton Rouge in Prairieville, very close to my office. Like, I go there at lunch. And the 4th generation of the Olaf family who owns it, Liz, was there. So it was really cool that she had asked us to be part of it as, the 4th generation of the family owned business. And then their manager over in Lake Charles, Rachel, came over. And so it was the 4 of us sitting down with the Maker's Mark folks. And you've got, if any of y'all been able to do that, you've got these chips and you've got this cask strength whiskey all in front of you, and you're trying to go through, and you basically have 3 shots to put this together. Right. And we get in, and we start smelling things. And Dorothy goes, "Can I get some coffee?" And I'm going, "Why is she wanting coffee?" And then she said, "There's some smell in here." And y'all, I just about busted out laughing because all I could smell was Copenhagen. I mean, there was like some bro dudes had been up in there dipping ahead of us. And this wafty, minty Copenhagen mouth tobacco dip. It's big down here in the South. It just was wafting in the air. And I was just like, all I could do is like, I was tasting it. Like, we truly were. And yeah. So Dorothy got her some coffee, and we had to baptize our noses in order to start smelling.
The fact that this turned out so good is great, because that smell was all over the place.
It really was. And I think, it was interesting. We put these different flavor profiles together, this first one, and that first time tasted wonderful, but had 0 nose. Do you remember that? I mean, it was like, where's the whiskey? I mean, like, there was nothing like boom on it at all. And I'm so glad I still have a bottle of this. So walk me through what you're smelling.
So I'm getting a good bit of light refreshing, which is weird for me on a bourbon.
Light and refreshing? Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit, just a little hint.
Yeah, I get a little lighter citrus on it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's not going to taste a little later, so I'm going to save that for a little later, but it's a lot richer on the palate than it is on the nose.
It is. And the finish just hangs. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to camp out for a while.
Yeah.
I get like the tobacco, like a little bit of almost a milky chocolate, not too bittersweet of a chocolate, and then a cherry.
Yeah.
I mean,
you get a little bit of that chocolate, but I think it's kind of that mouthfeel that's kind of like a buttercream mouthfeel along with that chocolate. The viscosity on this one is fantastic.
It is oily, isn't it? So, I mean, you can even kind of see, I have to like recalibrate that. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's got a really oily, got some legs, but it was a great experience, because I'm sitting here, I'm like, I feel like a poser because I don't do bourbon, but man, this tastes good. So I became a fan, and that's part of my journey is, getting away from what I thought bourbon was and what I thought all bourbon was, just as some people think all Scotch is, peated and that kind of thing. I have to branch out too. And so this was a perfect experiment for me to do that. And I remember the guy who was walking us through everything, and I was like, I'm getting sultanas. And that's kind of that citrusy little bit of thing. And he looked at me and he goes, sultanas. Was he Australian or South African? I was trying to remember. I loved his accent.
I don't remember.
Yeah. But I said, yeah, sultanas. And he goes, that's a Scotch tasting note. And I'm like, well, sorry, not sorry. It is what it is. But yeah, this did really well, and it was gone fast once we finally got it. It was right in the middle. I feel like it was middle of the pandemic, and it took forever to get.
Yeah, that once you do a pick, it takes forever, but it's feast or famine. For our picks that we do with our club, we pick them throughout the year, try to plan it out, and they all just end up hitting right before Christmas. That's not our fault. Sorry.
Hey, speaking of Stacy, hey, I was talking about your friend. Stacy's going to be on next week with me, and we're going to be talking. We're going to kick off the week of Irish. She's this is her Christmas time. This is her big time of the year. And she does a lot with her local community around St. Patrick's Day, and very excited that she's going to be able to spend some time with us next week. And speaking of, like, we're doing, I've been looking for it, Dorothy, but we're doing a tasting kit basically on Irish, aren't we, for the club?
Yeah, yeah. We're doing the spots.
Cool.
I don't know when it's going to release. I know we're pouring everything this weekend, so you should see everything up on the website early next week with the dates and everything and ready to go. But that should be fun. I'm excited. I'm sure it's in alignment with St. Patrick's Day. So even us bourbon people are getting out of our comfort zone and getting a little bit of Irish in us.
Getting that little triple distill going on. It's a little pot still here and there. That's awesome. Hey, Michael Hassler, good to see you. Thanks for being here, friend. And Daniel. Daniel is he's heading over to the motherland very, very soon. I'm so excited for you, man. I'm still planning the trip. We need to connect and talk about a few things before you go. I want to see. Oh, IC86 is in too. Good to see you. Thank you for being in. We're talking right now about a Maker's Mark pick that Dorothy and I got to be a part of, and really working through those different flavor profiles. And blending is an area where women particularly have an advantage, and it's one of those things where I think there are some physiological advantages I think women have. Just, I don't know if it's a difference in olfactory receptors, or the fact that we're probably exposed to more different smells that we can make connections. When you look at some of the top blenders, especially in Scotch, a lot of them are women, and a lot of that is based around, and blending is based around just smelling the whiskey. It has to make the cut on the smell first, and then it has to make the cut on the palate and being able to put that together. So we were talking about different folks, and you mentioned Nancy Fraley. And don't they call her Nancy the Nose Fraley?
They call her the Nose. And she is the master blender for one of our good friend distilleries at Still Austin, in addition to doing a ton of consulting work for so many bourbon and whiskey and even rum distilleries around the Americas. And it is amazing what she can do. Still Austin does not, when we talk to them when we're doing a pick or they're doing something like Nancy thinks this, or Nancy thinks this, and they talk about her in such reverence. She actually developed, it's called the Wheel of Aromas, I believe.
Okay.
And it's more for production, but it's essentially a wheel. It literally has maybe like 100 different tasting notes that can develop based on this is how good she is. Based on if you do this with the barrel, based on if you put it in this place, this is the tasting note that you could get from the barrel.
It was basically a program, a wheel that shows the program of do these things and you get this.
Yes, it is. That. It is not for, she said eventually if she has time, and I'm sure she doesn't because she's still doing consulting work all over, that she's going to develop one consumption. But this thing it's massive. When I say it has probably 100 different tasting notes on there that she can distinguish, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. That's funny. Oh man. So Molasses says, I envy the female olfactory abilities. His wife doesn't drink, but she has phenomenal nosing on your whiskeys. You just get her to smell each one of them and give you a jumping off point for your palate.
Yeah.
Then that's awesome. I love it. Oh goodness.
Take note.
That's great. I love all the chatting everybody's going on. Hey, Mark JG is in. Yay. Hey, friend. Good to see you. He's about to go on a trip to Scotland. It's like, finally open the doors and let us get the hell out of here. We're so tired of being home. Everybody's trying to make up their trip from past times, you know? So yeah, I mean, it's great to be able to think, you know, about all of the things that, and this was, you know, this pick was all women. You meet people like Nancy Fraley, who, when you do meet them, are like, you've known them a million years, you know.
Yeah.
I have a big like girl crush on Peggy No Stevens. I got to listen to her at the Bourbon and Beyond Festival this past year up in Louisville, and it's just like the depth of knowledge this woman has is amazing, and the lineage of her family, and how, you know, she's basically born in a barrel. Some of these people, or you know, those folks, they are recognized as being those experts. They just happen to be women, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a moment. I do want to take a moment to recognize that that's not always kind of been the case, and sometimes in different environments, it still isn't the case. I've met my share of, oh, you buying that whiskey for your husband, you know, and it's just like, oh, you had such potential, you know, and it is truly a bless your heart moment, because you just, there's no, you know, they're not as a frontal lobe ability to see beyond that. But in the same sense, people have been conditioned, I think, by lots of attributes and influences to identify and label people along with a drink, you know. You know, we are constantly bombarded with you know, people in marketing. You know, you see the suave guy with the suit and he's had a hard day, and he's, you know, I mean, he's pouring in some Johnny Walker, and, you know, it's all white tablecloth and silver kind of thing. You see the like in film and entertainment, especially, Scotch gets a bad rap of being the drink of last resorts. You know, oh, he had a horrible day, he's got to pour in some Scotch. I'm like, well, lucky him. You know, it's like, but you don't see the woman necessarily pour in the Scotch. You see her getting a fruity drink or something with vodka, or you know, wine's fine, but it's usually a white, pink, frilly wine. And really, it doesn't have to be that way. And along through the history of that marketing with producers, they bought into it. And producers are now, you know, I think there's been a lot of pushback. And I know that being in the Scotch world, but I think, you know, bourbon almost, there's a lot of women in bourbon, a lot of in the producer and the industry side of it, but they also didn't do themselves very well on some of their marketing.
You're absolutely right. I think to bring back to your point about just, I was looking at Peter's comment about terroir in bourbon. I could definitely talk a little bit about that. But I think about, to go back to what women drank in the media. Sex in the City brought Cosmos like to the forefront. And that was before I was of drinking age, when sex, not when it went off, but like
yeah. Okay, thank you.
First started, first couple of seasons, back when Carrie was poor.
Right.
Like, when I grow up and I'm able to drink and I'm 21, I'm gonna grab me a Cosmo.
Yeah.
Like pretty glasses. But yeah, when you think of whiskey, I think a lot of people still associate it with masculinity. And I know going up to a bar, people are like, "Oh, little lady, you're ordering a whiskey?" Like, of course I'm ordering whiskey. It's what I want. I drink whiskey. And it's we're still socialized. It's not for us, when it is. We've been there since the very beginning.
Yeah, and again, the whiskey doesn't care. You know, the whiskey's not going, "So, no, I'm not coming out of this bottle because a woman's wanting to drink me." It's not doing that. It's free flowing, you know? And there's a spot at the table. And I really do believe, like, I know our group is this way. I know my folks, predominantly guys in this. And, I love my husband. He understands it's all good. But everybody has been very welcoming to me. When I'm about to go almost 3 weeks to Scotland, I'm not going to have a problem over there at all,
Mm-mm.
you know. But there are some things that still have to be pushed, and just, like a timeout, folks.
Yeah.
And a lot of this, there was a big upheaval with Becky Paskin a couple of years ago when Jim Murray's Whiskey Bible came out, and there's lots of issues with that particular publication. Mainly, producers could buy to get into it, so that to me
Mhm.
just threw the validity out of it. But his writing style was is very affrontal and in equating liquor with women. And
Mhm.
we don't need that. We don't need that. You know, this placard right here, I know nobody can read it, but I know what it says. And what it says is, well-behaved women rarely make history. You got to push back, and it's not just women pushing back, it's men pushing back saying,
Mhm.
"Hey, time out. She can have that whiskey. She doesn't need my permission or yours, buddy." It's those little nugget moments in that situation and all things in our world.
Yeah.
It's not just women in whiskey.
There's
It's a bigger
transfers.
issue.
There's transfers.
Right. So you're seeing a sea change, I think, especially with the
Mhm.
Scottish, which quite frankly have been very gentrified and, statesman, and it's a Scottish, it's this gentleman's drink. No, it's not. It's we can all just pour us a dram and it doesn't care.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad to see that changing for sure. I really am, for sure. I'm gonna see on our comments. I know I'm so woefully back here a bit. Yeah. So let's go back and talk about terroir. Um, on this, some distillers are pushing the regional classifications like they are in Scotch. That's interesting. Is it because of where they're sourcing their grains? I'm guessing.
Uh, I think there was also another comment that kind of spoke to the American, scrolling down.
Oh, is it further down?
Yeah,
Um,
the single malts. So they're Peter again.
oh,
um,
we'll get
so
there.
yeah, single malts 100% trying to make a place in the US. It is trying to figure out what the rules are and trying to really make sure, standardize what the industry looks like.
Yeah,
For bourbon, I wouldn't say there's really terroir, but there's really a lot of the craft distilleries are trying to kind of distinguish themselves away from just traditional bourbon. A lot of bourbon comes out of Kentucky, but there's a lot of great bourbon, a lot of great whiskey that fits the classification of what bourbon is, that is way different. So I talked about Still Austin before. If you
mm,
know Kentucky climate versus a nice heat of Texas in
yeah.
Austin climate, it does
Daltonis.
something
Yeah,
special to the bourbon when it's in the barrels, and it just has this very distinct taste. It warms up. It as Angel shared, leaves a lot faster just because of the heat. We have a lot of great distilleries out of Colorado, which it just sits in a barrel a lot longer, sitting up, soaking up that oaky taste. So I think more, or not necessarily that, but more regional distilleries, those craft distilleries are really trying to differentiate themselves by region, but not necessarily by rules.
yeah,
Then we have those whiskeys that can be bourbon that don't want to be bourbon because they don't. So the Jack Daniels, fits every single classification of what bourbon is, and just like they're like, nah, don't call me bourbon. They're a Tennessee whiskey, but they're made of 51% corn. They follow all the rules. They can be bourbon. They just don't want to be, to distinguish themselves away from
wow.
the tons of bourbons they have in U.S.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's interesting that it's almost like they're differentiating, if I'm understanding, I'm trying to like get alignment in my head of just
Mhm.
kind of getting the regionality defined based on their flavor profile because of the way it matures.
Yes.
I mean, they're going to have a flavor profile because of how they make their spirit,
Hmm.
but knowing that a single malt can mature that fast in Texas, like a
Hmm.
Balcones can. There's a reason Diageo just bought them.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
Diageo owns Johnny Walker and Lagavulin and
Hmm.
Talisker and Kalila and all of these big names over in Scotland that have to sit there for 10 to 15 years as opposed to a 15-month to 3-year
Hmm.
endeavor over here. It gets hot in Texas.
Really
It's
hot.
really, really, really hot. Wow. Well, let's get to our second dram, and I want to catch up on some of the. So Loch Ness was talking about his wife has an incredible palate, and she prefers red wine, but is fantastic at recognizing Scotch. Yeah, it's really interesting. It's very interesting. I see you, Steve A. I agree. Hey, Whiskey Nose, good to see you. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Uh, so Peter was talking about this single malt new rules. Okay, coming out. Yeah, according to your friend at Delback. Oh, you have a friend at Delback. Awesome. I have a bottle coming. I'm so excited. Jennifer, my friend Jennifer is coming at the end of the month. And she's been playing my little elf over in Texas for me. Yeah. Mm, mm, mm. So Michael's saying that you never pour whiskey out for, but she likes to nose it. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I don't like to smoke, but I like to smell pipe tobacco. You know, it's it's funny how that works, right? Oh goodness. Yeah. So, so George was saying he was excited about the SMWS moment this afternoon. He ordered the outturn, updated the spreadsheet. Oh, you got okay. That's awesome. So slowly but surely, all the bottles in Scotland basically are 700 milliliters. Um, US has always had 750, and with glass and things have changed. It's still state by state. Like I was talking to Nate about this. He's a local whiskey or local liquor buyer, and he was like 700 is still not legally on the books that we can have here in Louisiana, but they're sneaking in. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that's going to be working it. So Peter's going to be at the Arizona Cocktail Weekend and Garrison Brothers in the Hill Country. Yeah, that's a pretty area and through there, and it still gets hot. It's a bit more arid,
Hmm.
but yeah. Um, I love how everybody see. This is the beauty about the chat, because we can have this conversation and people are listening in. But you've got Stacy letting people know about Talnua. Have you
Yeah,
had any of that yet, um, Dorothy?
I have
The
not.
Talnua Irish? Oh
I
my
have not
gosh,
had any of that. Mhm.
they're doing some really cool stuff. I've been able to have some of their expressions at the last two Bastards Ball over in Austin. Goodness. Hey
I just wrote
Richie,
that
good
one
to see you
down.
here. Huh?
I said I just wrote that one down.
Yeah, yeah. Um so Andrew's over in England. By the way, so with Jack Daniels, it's only marketing department, master distiller, and the previous one are both on record saying that they make bourbon. Interesting. Yeah, but there's a reason they don't have it on their label. I think it's probably easier for them just to tell people in passing that they make bourbon,
Yeah, their
but
distillers want you to know they're making bourbon.
yeah, but it is having been born in the state of Tennessee, I will tell you. Tennessee whiskey's, if you're that's the what is it? That's the hook you hang your hat on. It's how you identify yourself, right?
Mhm.
So the second dram, we're just going. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I told Dorothy, I said we may go a little late. Yeah, we're going late.
perfectly fine.
Um, so the second dram I have is one I'm really stoked about. So I did a video on comparing two different Balvenis, the double wood, and then this one, which is the sweet toast of American oak. It is this 12-year-old. So they were both 12-year-olds, the double wood and this one. And I wanted a side by side. And if you can see, let me do this. This is from Kelsey McKechnie. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She is the apprentice malt master at the Balvenie. And she is learning under David Stewart, who's been there a few years. David Stewart's been there 60 years. Okay. 3 generations of people he has been at the Balvenie, and so you have this young woman who's learning under his tutelage, who's learning and who has this palate and this nose. And this was her bottle to put together on basically it was part of his retirement and his time to celebrate his 60th year there at the Balvenie. And I think it's a great marriage from going from the bourbon that we had to the next dram that we're going to get. It's a Scotch, it's a single malt, but it's in twice toasted virgin American oak barrels. So it's almost like you've got that virgin oak barrel from that Maker's Mark, right? But now we have it, we toasted it twice, and we have single malt in it. So let me know what you think about this one.
I'm excited. Oh, it smells heavenly.
Because I know you've had the double wood before.
Mm-hmm.
So, Peter, so you've told Delbeck about the channel? Yay! And the one in Indiana, the Scotch for Dummies, absolutely. Oh, they were a guest at the local Total Wines. Okay, whiskey. That's very cool. Yeah, so both my channel and the Scotch for Dummies channel are getting into American single malts. If you ask my husband Mark, I've got like a bevy of them. I've got one table in the living room that's just all littered with different single malts, because I'm trying to figure out how I want to tackle that, and how I want to kind of do, because it is a little bit of like the regionality. You've got Westland, who's in the Pacific Northwest, completely different palette. I mean, climate rather than Delbeck in Arizona, or Andalusia outside Austin and Blanco, much less Balcones. Then you have Virginia Distillery. So they're up in the hills of Virginia on the East Coast. So there's all these variations. It's so interesting. And then you have big boys that are making single malt. Jack Daniels just came out with a single barrel, single malt. So I think it's interesting to see who all's getting in the game and how they're making their mark. It's going to be very niche. It's not a one-to-one. It's not American Scotch. It really, really isn't. So, well, that's cool, Peter. Yay. I'll have to chat with you, and maybe if you would send me at scotchonthebayou@gmail.com, because I'd love to chat with you more about that and to talk to him. And this woman, she'll be here in a couple of weeks. This is Jennifer. I can't wait. Dorothy, you got to meet Jennifer when she comes. But yeah, so Jennifer was my my roomie over in the Isla Whiskey Academy, and she and I have been into all kinds of trouble ever since. So what are you getting on this American toasted, sweet toasted American oak? It is sweet.
I'm getting like this. It is very sweet, but I'm also getting like rich stone fruit, especially at the end of the palate.
Mm.
And it's
Oh man.
delicious.
Yeah. So, and tell me, it's Matt. I think it's Matt. Whiskey on the West Coast is talking about the few names that come to mind with these women. Absolutely Bessie Williamson, Dr. Rachel Berry. She's our third dram. And Helen Cumming. Man, we're right on. We're so in tune, friend. So let's talk about Helen Cumming. So she started out, but then eventually Elizabeth, her daughter-in-law, was running the Cardew now distillery. It was part of Johnny Walker now. That's back when you know women they were widows and they inherited that distillery. Then the daughter-in-law Elizabeth, her husband died and she had three sons to raise, and she got pressured like crazy to just sell out. And she was like, nope, but we'll get you the 600 liters that you ordered, for your blends. And she just kept at it until she finally got to a point and her kids were grown. And she's like, I'm not letting this go until my kids are grown and they're on their own. And then she ended up selling to Johnny Walker, and Cardew is part of the Diageo, portfolio and part of Johnny Walker today. So interesting. Bessie Williamson, again, that was mentioned. Even Jimmy Jazz, I mentioned her at the beginning. Graduated from college, and wanted to work in 1934. Didn't stay home, and she just wanted to go out and she wanted to fly. So she literally flew from Glasgow to Islay is where she ended up. And she was the secretary at Laphroaig. And she was so efficient and she just did everything wonderful. She impressed everyone. And by doing that, something happened. The World War II broke out. And all the men who were making whiskey had to go to the war, and they're like, well, I guess we'll have to shut down. And the distillery manager, who was off to war himself, said, Bessie got it. And truly, not only did she continue running running the distillery, just keep it going. Meanwhile, the Germans are bombing the UK like mad, bombing all of the centers of industry around Scotland, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Aberdeen, all in through that area. Not only she did that, she was a secret ammunitions depot. And the ships would dock on Islay to load up on more ammunition. And they ran ammunition in and out of Islay on those ships. And she was able to get trademarked for Laphroaig in Canada and Australia at the same time. So what do you do in times of strife? You drink whiskey. And she sold whiskey to Canada and to Australia and just boomed the business during a war. I mean, come on.
Resourceful.
That's so cool. Yeah. I was looking to see. So are any other whiskey women that you can on the top of your mind of like maybe the pioneers or those who are really doing it great right now?
I definitely have one.
Well, tell me.
I think I would be, if I told you there was a American whiskey company that experienced 700% growth last year alone, that had a 100% all-female executive team and a female head distiller. We have to talk about that on
Yes.
the International Women's Day
Absolutely.
episode. Absolutely. So
those are proof in the numbers. I mean,
proof
numbers can
in the
lie,
numbers.
but you can't you can't run from a 700% increase.
700% growth in 1 year. And I'm talking about Uncle Nearest. So Uncle Nearest.
Awesome.
This is not my bottle. I have to send this off. This is a gift for someone else that I forgot to give,
Ooh.
but I wish I can open it and drink it. So Fawn Weaver started this journey where she was trying to figure out what the history of Nearest Green. He worked for Jack Daniels and nothing was known of him. So she interviewed him, found out that he actually developed the recipe for Jack Daniels whiskey. Went to Jack Daniels with her findings, and now he is listed. Not only did they recognize him, and he's an African American man. He was African American man. They now list him as the original distiller of Jack Daniels whiskey. So from that journey, she got with Nearest Green's family, and the great-great-granddaughter now is the head blender for Uncle Nearest, Victoria Edie Butler. We were able to see her at New Orleans Bourbon Festival last year.
Right.
Fantastic, dynamic woman.
Absolutely.
But Uncle Nearest is doing fantastic things. For 2019, 2020, and 2021, they were the most awarded American whiskey, not just bourbon, American whiskey company. And it's just a fantastic story. Company run by women, getting a story, an untold story out there that needed to be told. And I'm so excited to talk about her.
Yeah, and it's, and it's good whiskey. I mean, it's getting awards and it's getting attention, and maybe, it's going to get some attention because it is all women. That's great. If it works to get the message out, that's great. But it's good whiskey. And I think that's what's neat, and when the average person is walking up to look at the myriad of bottles on a shelf, they're not going to say which one was made by women and which one was made by men. They're just going to say which one was good. I think where those of us that get really into the enthusiasm of it and learning the history of it, that's where we have a place of saying, okay, did you know? It's, that's the opportunity where you can talk about it. Not, and it's kind of dicey because I don't want it to sound like if you're for, or if you want to promote women, I'm not degrading the accomplishments of men. Okay. Yeah. I want that really, really clear. It's just that we can do a lot of things. We need some opportunity, and just give me a little head, just give me a foot in the door and I'm there.
Yeah.
And if I can't cut it, I'll be out here. One of my dear friends, Terry Lamb, she's at Unbottling by Terry on Instagram. She's the story that I put in after today's story for tonight's show. She's spending months in Scotland as a journeyman and learning. She just wants to learn, not quite sure what she's going to be doing with it eventually, but she's getting there. She's working at Springbank. She's working at different distilleries. She's malting floors. She's, running a still. She's rolling barrels. She's cleaning out mash tuns. She's doing all of that because she's wanting to learn. She just happens to be a woman, So I absolutely love it. I have great admiration for what she's being able to accomplish and to go live her best life, as you say, But that's great. And so so the Uncle Nearest is still very relatively new, right?
2017.
Yeah, y'all. I mean, I know you don't have to. I know you don't have to mature that for as long as, we normally do Scotch or something, but wow.
I can't wait until they have a 10-year distillate. That's going to be like ridiculously awesome.
Yeah. And the thing is to punch into that market. Think about Scotch is one thing, but the bourbon market is like voluminous.
Saturated.
There's a ton of it. How do
They
you
have some
differentiate
great stuff,
yourself?
and they have some stuff that's like,
Yeah.
why?
Yeah. Why?
Why?
Oh, the poor grains that had to suffer
Yeah.
this. I mean, yeah. It's just, well, maybe the cows got something out of it after the draft, for the draft, and that was about it. Yeah. It's we've all had some of that. And you just
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
this sweet toasted American oak is just it's very balanced. Sweet, it's got a little bit of acidic on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
It's clean, bright. I mean, this is a very quintessential Scotch, but not. I get more of the vanillins and
Yeah.
honey and oakiness out of it than I would if it were a bourbon barrel.
Yeah.
Because this being and I think that's that caramelization from the toasting, from what I understand about that process.
But at the same time, I think this would be, I mean, not that you want to start a brand new bourbon convert on a 12-year, a great pour, introductory for those of us who are dabbling in the Scotch world. And I definitely appreciate it because it was delicious.
Well, good. I knew you would get it. I knew you would get it for sure. I can go back and look at some of the comments real quick. I see some that were flagging me. Let's see. Where did it go? I'm having trouble scrolling. Oh my goodness. So someone's having Gordon and MacPhail Boonahaven. Yum. So talk back to Delbach, the Dorado Private Barrel Mesquite Smoked. Yes. I think I had one of them at the vault at the Whiskey Tribe in Austin. I'm trying to remember. I know I took a picture of it, but that was the first that I'd had, and I was like, they got my attention quick. There are some American single malts they're trying, but there's a certain level of almost an acetone to me on some of the expressions that those things need some more time on them. The Delbuck was just very nice. I can remember that being very, very nice. Daniel was talking about Bessie Williamson being a legend, spent the day with Don McDougall, who is her distillery manager, and he could not sing her praises. Wow. So you actually got to meet with somebody who knew her. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, Molasses says the ammo was just an excuse to pick up the cases of whiskey. Absolutely, because the Scots had to have their whiskey in order to fight. They were known to be them and the Aussies were known to be some of the meanest ones there. That's for sure. So let's see. Interesting. So most of the women I've seen in whiskey in Arizona have been bartenders, and they make drinks. Like to see more in the distilling process. Yeah, and see what expressions they could create. Absolutely. Man. So Jennifer just got back from Iceland, and she went to Floki whiskeys. So I'm saying, I hope I said that right. Phonetically, that makes sense to me. Floki, something like that. Yeah, for sure. Here we go. So the women in whiskey are critically important, but so are 3 more important women. Your wife, mother, and grandmothers. Absolutely. It's not, tomorrow is not just about whiskey women. It's about all women.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody got here because of a woman. And I'll just say that right now. If you don't, that's impressive. I'd like to know more. So Andrew says he'll chip in Julianne Fernandez. Yes. Crazy good. I blender, right? Jenny Carlson, Angela Dorazia, and Julie Hamilton. All right, I'm gonna have to go back. I'm gonna go look all those up. Yes, Heather Green. I got to meet her a couple of years ago. Milam Green. Marianne Eves, another one that just good gravy, what a nose. Unreal. So let's get to our third. So we're coming on the hour, but we'll get there. And this is another one that Whiskey on the West Coast was talking about, and this is Dr. Rachel Berry. Now, actually, I'm trying to think. This may still be a Billy Walker version. Now that I think about it. 16, maybe not. I can't remember. But at any rate, so Dr. Rachel Berry is over Glengossie, Benriach, and Glendronach. And so this next dram is, y'all know I love this one. It's the 18 Allardyce. And this is all Oloroso. This particular bottle is 2016. And for those who may not know, there was a time period where Glendronach was shuttered and shut down. But all that, whiskey was just sitting there doing its thing. Their core range is a 12, a 15, an 18, and a 21 year. And instead of changing those years, they just put old stock. So there was a gap that they were closed, and so they didn't have an 18 year expression, 18-year barrels. But they had 21-year barrels, and up to 2019, that was the year that there was 24-year-old whiskey in an 18-year labeled bottle, which is crazy. Brown-Forman has come in and bought them. Back then, Billy Walker was over them. He is now over at Glenallachie. This is not her distillate, but she is known for blending. She is known for putting things together to have an unbelievable outcome. And there's such an art in blending, because you don't have any control of what came off the spirit. You just have control of what you have now it's how it is in the cask. And for someone to be able to pick out those different profiles and figure out, okay, this would meld well with this in this proportion, it kind of makes your brain hurt and have flashbacks to chemistry. But it's such a absolute art to get that. Have you've had this one before? I think
I have, yeah.
So coming off of this toasted oak, where it was bright, a little fruity, and just more like honeys and vanillas. This, tell me what you're getting. I don't want to influence you.
The nose is strong with this one. I'm getting.
So, and this is 46 ABV, so 92 proof. None of these were, a real high. I think our bourbon was the highest at
109.
Yeah, you got younger eyes than I do. Yes, Jennifer, when you come, I will gladly take some more butter tortillas from HEB. Thank you. And I made bacon today. I'll make more before you come. When she came over last January, she got in real late, and we sat on the couch and ate bacon at 2:30 in the morning with really peaty smoky Scotch. It was absolutely fabulous.
Sounds like a night.
It's really good. Y'all, just the depth of nose on this is So yeah, go ahead.
It's so strong, but not offensively strong. Just like I want to get right into drinking it.
It's there is like this depth to it. So Oloroso for me is more, all of sherry is sweet for me. And as it seems to me in my brain, I've made myself believe the darker it gets, the sweeter it gets. So a PX is basically distilled ground up raisins. so it's
Yeah.
super sweet.
A
Where
little bit creamy. Yeah.
Oloroso is more savory and
Mhm.
nutty kind of. I'm like hyperventilating smelling. This is so good, y'all. Mm. Yeah, so it just, with Rachel Berry being a master distiller, it's going to be interesting to see what her um, versions are going to be once her spirit is matured enough on those. Mm. Really kind of get that earthy, savory part on the finish,
Mhm.
you know? Mm, man. God, we got a good little group in here, y'all. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got new names and old friends. I just love it. But yeah, I just she also has this other one that she put out, and this does have her name on it. This is a Benrick 12-year 3 cask. And so it's a maturation of sherry cask, bourbon, and port. So next time I see you, I'll give you a sample of this one too. But yeah,
Ooh.
it's Dr. Rachel Berry, the Master Blender, and this one is
Forest
at
fruit. I haven't seen it. It is a tasting note.
Forest
Forest
Fruit.
fruit. Yeah, that was on the bottle.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of forest up there. I don't know what kind of fruit is in it. So, maturation and sherry bourbon and portwood with rich smoothness layered with baked fruit, maple honey sweetness, and lingering oak spice. Forest fruits. So, I don't know, maybe like brambleberries, or kind of
Mhm.
wild berries. I could get that.
Yeah.
Good night, Loch Ness. Thanks for being in here with us. Yeah. So Stacy says definitely get more of that nutty notes on Oloroso.
Mm.
Thank you, friend, for being in. And yeah, and wishing everybody a good International Women's Day. There's still lots of places in this world where it's very hard to be a woman. And do what we can for
Mhm.
that. Mm-mm-mm. So, as references go, the nose on this one is strong. Star Wars is better than
I,
Whiskey
I
Doesn't
almost
Care.
said the nose is wrong with this one, but I thought that was too close to the Star Wars reference.
That's great, Peter. Oh, that's perfect. Oh man. Um, Goodness gracious. Well, this was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you being on. Because you're not only one of my favorite whiskey people, but you're one of my favorite whiskey buddies, that women whiskey buddies, and there
Hey,
aren't too many of us. We got to stick together.
this was fun. Thank you so much.
And then this guy shows up at the end. Hey, David. David's our co-founder of our group, and they y'all all work your ass off. I don't see how in the world you get done what you do, but I'm very proud to be a member and part of the group for sure. That's it. But yeah, so I think it's cool to be able, to kind of go out and maybe even seek a woman distilled spirit in the next
Mhm.
couple of weeks, to try to find you one that you might not know. It's a real quick Google search, I promise. You'll be amazed at how something that you may have an experience with, or is in your wheelhouse, that you had no idea that the master blender was a woman. Doesn't matter, but it's kind of cool that she is.
Yeah, because
It
we're
really
out
is.
there. We're doing the things.
Oh my goodness. Oh, so David was watching on Facebook. Cool. Yay, I'm glad that's working. Richie's talking about, yep, nutty, deep raisiny plum notes on with the sherry. Yep. Just such good stuff. Such good stuff. Michael's talking about Daniel's like an unpeated like classic laddie for sherry, likes that Abalura Buddha for peated. Nothing like an oogie. Ardbeg Ugadel. You're talking Jennifer's love language. She is an Ardbeg fangirl for sure. But no, but thank you so much. Can you think of anything else we need to talk about to wrap up? Just go find your favorite women in the world, and everybody just wish them a good day tomorrow.
Absolutely. It's the month, it's the day tomorrow. Let's appreciate all the women in our lives.
Yeah. So what's coming up with the Bourbon Society in our group?
We're planning our next big fundraiser. So we have a charity bottle that we bring out every summer, early summer. This one is going to be, this is our third one. It's going to be a lot different than the other two we've done.
Really? Okay.
And all the proceeds go. I spilled the beans too much last time I was on the show.
You did.
So I did. So I'm not going to do that this time. But it's
a local charity, though.
A local charity.
Yeah.
It's cancer charity. It's called a Screw Cancer Bottle. So it's in a nice box, differently branded, and it's a great opportunity just to have some great whiskey and support a great charity.
Yeah.
That's coming up early summer.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we appreciate all the work that you do for that for sure. Thank you, Dorothy, for being part of this show. Cool. Well, I'm gonna tuck you in the back. I'll be there in a bit. I want to say bye to everybody.
Right.
Cool.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
So y'all, thanks so much. We had a great group tonight. I really do appreciate it. I think it's a worthy discussion point. But again, I find our community is so welcoming and open to all people, and there've been a few encounters, but for the most part, those people are in the noise and they don't matter anyway. You all matter tremendously. Thank you so much again for the support. The Camp Drammers, we got a slew of y'all that have been in for 4 months now. Again, make sure that you subscribe to not only the channel, hit that like button that always helps on the math algorithm stuff, but venture over to Facebook and give the page a like, and that would be a big help as well. Next Tuesday, again, Stacy's going to be here, 4-Leaf Whiskey. We're going to be talking about Irish for Scotch lovers. And I'm super excited that we've got some things planned out. I'm about 2 months away, 2.5 months from leaving to go to Scotland for almost 3 weeks. We're going to be talking a lot about plans. I'm so stoked. And may do a couple little things on where should Lee go when I get over there. So thank you all again. I appreciate all the love. Be sweet to everybody, but be really, really sweet to those who are the women in your lives. You got here because they brought you in the world. And until next time, next week, Slanji y'all.